Hey everyone, give us a minute. Welcome. Tony, let me know when we have enough people and then we get going.
I think let's get started, and then I'll let people in as they're coming in.
Excellent. Welcome everyone to this webinar. We are delighted today to have with us our tax advisory partner firm Deloitte, our sponsoring member National Research Council, and our industry member Fortescue Canada. And they're going to speak to us about how to maximize your project success under the ITC framework. A little bit to those of you who are not members yet and may not know much about CHFCA, Canadian Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Association. So we strive to be a unified voice for the hydrogen sector. We do this through advocacy and government relations, awareness and education, and network.
I think we lost Yvette.
It seems.
And I think everyone, I had some computer glitch. It was supposed to be Arvind, the one who had computer issues today. But Arvind, I managed to beat you. Sorry, everyone. Let's try this again. I am going to present again. And I just won't start from the beginning. So again, a little bit about us. I just mentioned who we are. Proud to have you here. Before we get started, just some housekeeping items. Our meeting is always conducted in accordance to CHFCA non-competition compliance policy. So please refrain from sharing any proprietary information in the chat or as you speak. Make sure that you stay muted when you're not speaking. Type your questions in the chat. We're going to be grabbing them, and Arvind is going to be facilitating later as well. And we're going to be recording the session, like I said, but not the Q&A. And this always allows for a little bit more of a candid discussion. I mentioned a little bit about CHFCA. And this is a little bit of an overview of our approximately 200 members. If you're not a member yet, come to us or to my colleagues and we'll help you out. Now, before we get started, just because budget came out 2 days ago, I wanted just to not ignore it and talk a little bit about it. We have not sent you our GR update yet. That is because there's so much on the go, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So we didn't want to diminish the importance of the GR update just by sending you yet another piece of communication. Some things that are going to be somehow relevant to the context today is the establishment of a federal council on science and innovation and anticipated legislation for clean hydrogen ITC. It has been confirmed that that is going to be tabled. So the new advisory council on science and innovation that is going to include academia, industry, not-for-profit, and it will be responsible for crafting a national science and innovation strategy, directing priority setting, and optimizing the impact on federal investments. There's no reference specifically to hydrogen, but from a GR perspective, this may represent an opportunity for us in terms of advocacy to influence the upcoming national innovation and science strategy. So stay tuned for more updates on that. And of course, the implementation of the clean hydrogen ITC, that's what we're talking a little bit about today, and it's crucial for the sector. A little bit, just my 2 final announcements. I promise, as you know, we are rebranding, and the countdown tells me that it is, we have 5 days to go. So this is going to happen. This is going to happen at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. We are the official association partner for the conference. And the official launch, the unveiling of the brand is going to be at 2 p.m. local time. on the 23rd. So on day one of the conference, we hope to see you there. We have a happy hour right after, and the team is putting a lot of effort and into this event. So please come and see us, booth 29, 59, I'm being misleading, at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention on the 23rd. And my very, very final announcement before I pass it on to our first speaker, I promise now, we have launched a sector profile, and I think my colleague Turney is going to add the link to the chat. This is important. It's a sector outlook. How does the sector look today? It was very different. It is a very different sector from the way it looked when we did our last industry outlook. So please, we encourage everyone to fill out the survey. The information remains confidential. We are working with a third party. We only see the information on aggregate. So any information regarding jobs or revenue forecasts, etc., remains completely confidential. You are also can also feel free to skip a question that you don't feel that you are sufficiently comfortable to answer. But again, it's really important, and this can become a GR, an advocacy tool for all of us. We will be sharing it, publishing it, and you can use these figures when you advocate with government and when you present the opportunity for hydrogen. And with that, I am going to introduce Arvind Ramakrishnan, and who's a good friend of CHFCA. He's part of the hydrogen team. In fact, Arvind is the national hydrogen lead, and he's one of our close partners within the Deloitte team. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen, Arvind, if I figure out how to do that, and I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Yvette. Am I coming across okay?
Yeah, you are. I was the one who had the computer issue now. You're good.
Okay, and I have shared my screen as well. So thanks, thank you so much, Yvette, and to the CHFCA team for this opportunity. As Yvette said, I lead the hydrogen file for Deloitte nationally, and we are typically engaged with a lot of private and public sector clients across the entire value chain. And this whole issue of navigating tax credits, the LCA modeling, keeps coming up repeatedly in numerous conversations, especially as we all know, we have an ambitious target for reaching our own net zero targets. And hydrogen has been positioned as an important fuel to help us get there. And even in Japan, even in Asia, with Japan and South Korea going to auctions and looking towards our country for clean ammonia exports, there are many uncertainties, but we can certainly see that cost is absolutely a key driver. Being competitive in the global arena is absolutely important, and accessing this tax credits from ITC is a very, very important part of that. And today we're going to hear from two very important organizations that have been in the forefront of it. So it would be my pleasure to introduce them today. The first up would be is Cyril from the National Research Council Canada, not to be confused with NRCan. Cyril has a PhD in material mechanics, and then pursued his research and postdoctoral fellowship. He joined NRC in 1998, has been there for a while, and then has had numerous experience over the last 15 years in development of various data management platform for analyzing various grid-connected technologies, energy storage, hydrogen distribution for fuel cell cars. And so the NRC has also been working quite a bit on LCA modeling tools and methodologies and other hydrogen technologies. So with that said, I think it would be my pleasure to introduce and have Cyril share some of his perspectives on this topic. Cyril, over to you.
Thank you very much, Robin, for this nice introduction. I will try to share my screen and hope. How about like this? You see my presentation? Yeah, perfect. So thank you very much. I will be presenting to you what is NRC, the National Research Council Canada, and hopefully that will give you some light about the difference with NRCan. And I will present you also some activities we are carrying out related to hydrogen technologies. And obviously, I will also present you the NRC methodology that we are using to prepare life cycle analysis models. So NRC deliver values to Canada in two ways. First, we have like a network of research centers, and we have about 22 sites across Canada, from East Coast to West Coast to North Coast. And we have 29 research programs covering a wide range of scientific innovations, from advanced clean energy to vaccines. And we also have the Industry Assistant Program that is supporting small, medium enterprise by funding contribution ranging up to $10 million. And for your information, the funding decision from IRAP can take as little as 9 days for funding under $50,000, but may take up to 76 days for funding above $3 million. So NRC has been created in 1916, and through these 100+ years, we have created and contributed to innovation in Canada. So a couple of examples. In 1951, NRC created the International Classification for Snow, quite adequate for Canada. Along with the Standard Council of Canada in 1988, we established a world-class accreditation program. And a little bit more recently, in 1990, NRC is known for developing the meningitis vaccine. So our mandate is threefold. First is we advance scientific and technical knowledge, and we support government policy objectives, and we support business innovation. So in that innovation landscape, NRC is located more towards problem solving and economic benefit. In that regard, then we are working more closely with industry for creating incremental innovation. We also work with public sectors for public goods and social benefits. We also work with universities for transformational science. So regarding our activities on hydrogen technologies, we go across the whole value chain, from production to conversion technologies. For instance, in production technology, we are looking at electrolysis, like from the material discovery, component development, component manufacturing in the aim for mass production, validation of the platform, and also system simplification. For distribution, we particularly in my project, we are looking at data analytics for hydrogen refueling stations, but we are also looking at pipeline materials and structural health monitoring of those pipelines. And conversion technologies, we are also looking at hydrogen combustion, hydrogen storage, and safety, as well as fuel cells, membrane manufacturing, but for fuel cells, and system integration, like power to gas. Across all these technologies, we are carrying out life cycle analysis to assess carbon intensity. We are also looking at coordinate standard gap analysis across the whole hydrogen value chain. Now, talking about our life cycle analysis methodology. So we first aim to create a life cycle inventory, and for that we carry it out in 3 phases. So in the first phase, we have this project initiation, and in that project initiation, we work with the client to develop the goal, the scope of work, and the system boundaries. With these system boundaries, we develop the flow sheet and then carry out the process simulation. On NRC side, we have an lifecycle inventory template that we are using to collect information and to validate the simulation data. And for that validation, we look at the overall mass and energy balance, as well as the carbon balance. We are also collecting and validating metadata and documentation, such as contextual information, component specification, operational consideration. Then we are also normalizing the input and output of the system, and then we are selecting the adequate biosphere compartment and technosphere connections. The third phase will then consist at importing the dataset into our collaboration server and in our lifecycle analysis tools that we are going to use to perform lifecycle impact analysis, as well as exporting the data into standard format. So this LCI dataset exportation to other platform require some cleaning. First is mapping the flows that might not be compatible or not existing the same way between our platform and other platform. Similarly, we might need to adjust units that might not be compatible between different platforms. And most importantly, we go through the data and remove any proprietary and confidential information from the dataset before exporting it to a different platform. So the reduced version can then be used in other platforms, such as ITC fuel LCA model, as well as a grid tool from the DOE. So in our work, we use mainly the EcoInvent database for our background datasets for known inputs and output flows. We can carry out with our lifecycle analysis tools different impact analyses, such as climate change, which would yield the carbon footprint, and water consumption, resource depletion, resource scarcity. So our main our core tool is the collaboration server. NRC is hosting and managing this server, and that allows us to manage collaboratively lifecycle inventories. And something to note is the data are hosted in a data center located within Canada. The web application manages the access to each inventory, hence protecting specific dataset while accepting contribution from other users. The web application has also a built-in moderation process, allowing moderators to share comments and suggestions, which leads then to verified datasets. And finally, the web application has also a versioning feature, which enables the auditing of the LCI development. And furthermore, NRC is working currently with Optel for carbon footprint traceability integration. And I will conclude my presentation by making an announcement about on May 28 coming up, we will be holding a roadshow on hydrogen environmental impact assessment. And it will be held in Toronto, and stay tuned for further announcement. Thank you very much. And I will end my slideshow and stop sharing if I can.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Cyril. Okay, thanks a lot for that very informative session there, Cyril. Next up, we have Stephen Appleton from Fortescue. And before I ask Stephen to share his remarks, I do want to mention that Deloitte right now has been working with the City of Prince George, BC government, and the broader stakeholders along the value chain to help stand up the hub and develop the capabilities. I bring this up because that's where my path crossed here with Stephen and the big ambition that Fortescue has in the City of Prince George for both domestic and export. And I think it'll be quite interesting to hear Stephen today to talk about some of the practical challenges of accessing these credits and how have they gone through and their experience through the developer lens. But before I do that, very quickly about Stephen. Stephen Appleton joined Fortescue in November 2020 as the Canada's country manager, and I would say he brings a wealth of experience spanning 25 years in various executive roles in energy, construction, and engineering. And a very interesting part of his background is prior to this, he's actually spent about 27 years in Army in Iraq and Afghanistan. So I'm sure if you ever get a chance to talk to him and spend some time, those would be some really interesting stories to hear from Stephen during his time in the Army. But for today, in the topic of discussion we have, I think we're going to hear from Stephen about Fortescue's ambition and some of their perspectives on accessing the ITC credits. Stephen, over to you.
Thanks, Arvind, and I will bring up my presentation. And if you could just, Arvind and team, just acknowledge to me that it is showing properly.
Yes, it's coming through, Stephen.
Okay, so full screen. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm Steve Appleton. I am the country manager for Fortescue Energy. I oversee the coast-to-coast opportunities, origination, and our delivery of hydrogen projects in the country. So that being said, I wanted to take this particular discussion with the few moments that we have together to talk about some of the challenges associated with a developer. And now, before doing so, I wanted to also just give you a little bit of information on Fortescue so that you can then better contextualize some of the challenges that are brought to bear as we actually get to the ground. So you may have heard of Fortescue and our chairman, Dr. Andrew Forrest. We have gone from being a Fortescue Metals Group to now a Fortescue Energy and Metals Group integrated as one, bringing together the entire spectrum of mines and mining, technology and innovation, manufacturing of electrolyzers, project development for hydrogen and hydrogen derivatives, and financing. And so it's this integrated approach that we bring to a challenge, because as Arvind had mentioned previously, one of the largest problems or challenges for a developer are costs. And so strategically, by integrating, we believe that we can optimize that entire value chain from the mines to the market. All right. Just to give you an example, Fortescue's been around for only about 20 years, has a market cap of over $50 billion in that short period of time, has become the 4th largest iron ore miner in the world and the lowest cost producer. That should bear testimony to the fact that the company can move large infrastructure projects from initiation to program delivery in a very efficient way. And it's that mindset that we bring to the challenges of the hydrogen industry. Furthermore, as a carbon emitter in terms of the Pilbara mining operations, we have now formally declared, and we did 2 years ago, that we will get to real zero by 2030 with our Scope 1 and Scope 2 operations in our mining operation. That is the abatement of upwards of 1 billion liters of diesel per year, at an expense or an investment to us of just over $6 billion. And then you can see where we're going with Scope 3. So we are leading the industry with regards to not only seeking to serve as a catalyst for the hydrogen industry, but also decarbonizing at a corporate and industrial level as well. Now, most topically, what you have here is an illustration of our work on the West Coast, and specifically British Columbia. And as Arvind mentioned, the Prince George area. Now, we identified the Prince George area long before it was identified as a hub, but it's important that its characteristics reinforce the entire construct of the hub idea. And the reason that these characteristics are important is because they do come together to address cost. And if we take a step back and look at what is the overall and strategic purpose of an ITC, an investment tax credit, it has to be to serve as a catalyst and a bridging mechanism for Canada to get a hydrogen industry up and commercialized for either export or domestic consumption. So you can see that it's a bit of a busy slide in a cartoonish way, but nonetheless, we wanted to point out what we have done with regards to some of the thought process in minimizing the cost structure. So the first off was, ideally, we'd like to be on the West Coast, where a port could be co-located with, let's say, the production facility of electrolyzers and synthesizers. That simply wasn't possible on the West Coast of British Columbia because the transmission lines weren't there and would not be there for 10 to 15 years. And the land development costs were either too small for the size that we were talking about or far too expensive. And also we were asked provincially to stay away from the lower mainland. So where did that take us? It took us inland. And when we looked at Prince George, what did we see? We saw a major distribution means by rail, by road, connected to Alberta, and we know the challenges Alberta faces with regards to getting its products to Tidewater. We saw an expandable site with regards to renewables in the area, a legislative framework that was very supportive. And we saw a port facility, albeit 700 kilometers away, that was in fact strategically highly competitive in both North and South America, with being the shortest distance to Japan and South Korea. When then you added the fact that 98% of the BC grid is renewables, Site C had yet to come online, but would be, we thought this is the place, albeit somewhat unconventional, inland, with some costs associated with that. The other characteristics are very attractive. It is then with that strategic thought that we started to look at the metrics which would bring in the ITC. Now remember, this is back in 2021. At the time, investment tax credits were not formally being discussed in any consultative way available to the private sector. What was being talked about, of course, was the Carbon Fuel Fund, the CFF, and the Strategic Innovation Fund. And so here are some of the cautions for first movers, as much as that can be an advantage. We proceeded on this project with project development costs using GHGenius, which has a particular carbon intensity output. And that was for the submissions to NRCan on the Carbon Fuel Fund and with the Strategic Innovation Fund, which used GHGenius. That gave us a certain carbon intensity, and which was very low, and we started to proceed down that pathway. Of course, selecting the BC electrical grid, we contemplated that time would give us a strategic advantage because with a grid connection, and as long as the capacity could be confirmed, we could move faster than we could with a greenfield site. So these were the thoughts at the time. It was only subsequent in the project development process where the ITCs were identified and the LCA model was then the foundation for the investment tax credits. As we can appreciate, the carbon intensity result looking at various grid connections was quite different from GHGenius. And so as a project developer, this gives you a certain concern because of the thresholds that came out of the draft consultation paper on the investment tax credits. Even a grid like BC's at 98% renewables was not fully valued at the 40% ITC. So this came to us as a surprise to us. My point in my thoughts with you as a project developer on the practical side is we moved quickly. We had contemplated some of the strategic attributes, all with the view of making sure our theme of low cost was respected. And recognizing there was a gap, when we turned to the federal government, there was a mechanism that was being used. That mechanism shifted from GHGenius to the ITCs founded on the LCA model. And that is part of the challenge that we now face, is bridging that gap. I'll conclude there and be more than happy to take any questions, but I wanted to share this with you as a developer's perspective.
Thanks a lot, Stephen. Very, very, certainly very interesting, and can appreciate the journey your organization has come, and I would say there is still more to go till this ambition is realized, and certainly not just for British Columbia, but for Canada as well.